The Shoegazing Podcast is back with episode 34. As always, with me, Jesper Ingvaldsson of one of the world's leading quality shoe websites, shoegazing.com, behind the microphone. In this episode, we are putting the spotlight on an integral part of the shoe industry that perhaps aren't that known to the wider audience, since it doesn't deal with the regular consumer. I talk about leather wholesalers. One of the leading such for the shoe industry in the UK is Euroleathers, where Rob James is a director. Earlier this spring, I visited him and the family business in Northamptonshire. I had a tour of the warehouse and sat down with Rob to talk about the company, about wholesalers' part in the shoemaking sector, about leather quality, about what types of leathers that are quickly on the rise, and much more. So enjoy your listen. All right, Rob James of Euroleathers, welcome to the Shoegazing Podcast.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
Yeah, nice to visit you here in sort of in between Kettering and Northampton town.
Yeah, north of Northampton. Sort of getting into the semi-countryside.
Yeah, when I went there, it was proper countryside.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we often get a few people that come up and visit, and they say, "Oh, you know, it's nice countryside out here," and not that it's best kept secret, but sort of Northamptonshire heading to Leicestershire this way, Market Harbour is lovely. So yeah, good side to be on. Yeah. But you know, all the surrounding areas in the area of Northampton are pleasant. Yeah, probably not quite as pleasant as Sweden, but it will do.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Now we're here in February. Not Sweden nor the UK is that pleasant.
Yeah, well, I think you've picked it on a relatively good day as the sun is shining in.
Exactly, so now I shouldn't complain.
It's probably been one of very few days.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, we did a sort of short tour of the premises with seen a lot of nice leathers and stuff like that. So now we should talk about it as well.
Yeah. The important part.
Yeah, exactly. So Euroleathers is sort of one of the classic leather wholesalers in Europe. Can you tell us a bit about the history of the company?
Yeah, so Euroleathers it was officially started by a chap called Frank Lyons in 1961. He'd been a leather trader and his family had been leather traders basically since the 1800s. So he started the official Euroleathers name. Frank then passed the business on to two guys called Ray Chambers and John Woolley, who ultimately then sold the business to us. So now there's he sold it to Andrew and Kate, aka Mum and Dad for me, and Michael and Maureen, auntie and uncle. So that was year 2000. So for the past 25 years, it's been a full family business of the Jameses.
Yeah. It was a lot of my uncle and my father.
You're looking at one another thinking, they always look a little bit similar, but exactly. They sound a bit different. So that's how it started. And we've obviously traditionally always been in the Northampton area, working with the shoe manufacturers of the area and supplying our expertise and knowledge as best we can, which is, it's been great. It's been, as a family business, we get along. It's always raises an eyebrow with people to say, you work with your family. How do you find that? It's all, we all have the common purpose of we've got to facilitate the customers as best we can, and family politics come back. But fortunately, we haven't got, touch wood, too many of those.
And how long have you worked in the leather industry?
Myself personally, about 8 years now. I worked in London for just over 5 years in finance. And so I came out of university. School holidays, I'd always worked a little bit with Mum and Dad and Michael and Maureen up here helping out a little bit. But when you're young, you push back a little bit on I'm not sure I really want to work with the family. And then Dad had always said to me, you must go and do something else. Go gain experience, and you can come back and then help the business. So worked in finance in London for 5 years, and then it got to a stage where I was at a bit of a crossroads down there. The markets were quite flat in what I was doing, and I said, maybe it's probably time to come back and come to the point where the business was at a level where they probably needed a bit more help as well. So everything sort of landed on its feet for me in terms of coming back. But, I'm still only a relatively short time of being here. My cousin Jack's been here for 13 years. The old guard as Dad has been working in the industry 53 years. Yeah. Michael 47, Maureen 38, and Mum 38 as well. So it's basically collectively 200 years of experience rolled into Euroleathers now.
Cool.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, if you sort of explain briefly, how does a leather wholesaler work? If you look at it both towards the tanneries and towards your customers?
Certainly, it's from our point of view, it's all about, buying and selling leather is like a collaboration between your supply line and your customer base. You have to instill confidence in your customers that you're going to supply them the right leather, and that comes with spending time listening to them, understanding their needs, and then going out and sourcing the right suitable leather. So there's sort of a manufacturing factory point of view, is that we need to get our suppliers and tanneries to understand. Basically, the communication is probably the key thing to success, and the cooperation to make the collaboration work. We kind of have to go out and find tanners that will fit with customers' expectations, size of manufacturing, the kind of leather, the price point that they need. So it's certainly a bit of a collaboration in that respect. And then there's a bit more of a merchanting point of view, wholesaling point of view, where you have to sell the service. You're not necessarily just selling a piece of leather. You're selling a service that somebody wants 1 or 2 skins and they need it shipping somewhere and they need it quickly. That's what you're...
Yeah, because you do quite a lot of that, like almost single skin stuff as well.
I mean, we do a bit more these days. Probably more so because of what's happened in Europe over the last few years. And you have to move with the times. So we do a little bit more of that. It's still the majority is still what the Northamptonshire trade is we call it the bread and butter. That's what keeps us going. But it seems daft having a whole warehouse full of high quality leathers here and not being able to sell it into somebody in America or somebody in Japan. So.
Yeah, exactly, because you have some like bespoke shoemakers from Tokyo or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And
connect with you and buy hides.
A lot of people have come over, seen us, and that's the nice thing about sort of building relationships with one another, is showing them the warehouse, giving them an understanding of what we do, and let it flourish from there.
Yeah. And would you say Euroleathers is different in a way to your competitors?
I would say that we have basically having a warehouse, and so we represent a lot of high quality tanneries who we agent for and sell for, but we always try and have stock here in the warehouse as well to sell. So often you'll come across competitors that are solely agents, or maybe some just merchants, But we are, we not that you hold it as leverage, but you try and always hold some sort of stock from a tannery to always have that buying power with them as well. So, and also, I guess the area of the manufacturers around here makes it definitely a point of difference that we are specialists in the shoe trade, and offer anything from sole leather up to upper leathers, and then
because you have the whole
everything in between,
part, so to speak.
So it's a good industry to be in around here. It's quite niche, but yeah, we've developed some good relationships that hopefully will be, touch wood, long lasting for years to come.
And I know, because nowadays you also do some shoe care and insoles and stuff like that. So how much of your business today is leathers, and how much is the other things?
It's leather has always traditionally been the bigger side, larger part of the business. It's perhaps leveling out more and more now. I'd probably say it's maybe still 60-40 leather, but probably getting closer to a 50-50 split. A couple of things with that, but shoe care and that side of the business has nurtured its way up to a point where it's going well, and it takes time. You're dealing with retailers, you're dealing with wholesalers, but also now factories, and so yeah, that probably has always had a little bit more room for growth for Euroleathers. So yeah, that's coming to a point where it's showing a bit and showing some success in that. So yeah, we've always proudly, from myself and Dad's side, leather's always the bigger side, but we have to take note that my uncle and Jack are doing a sublime business on the shoe care side.
Yeah, and I mean, it's good to have more legs to stand on, so to speak.
Yeah. Diversification.
Yeah.
If you're standing still and not trying to get with the times and look for other opportunities, you'll, might be tough.
Yeah. And of course, the question you always have to ask companies like you in the UK who work with a lot of European companies, Brexit, how has that affected you?
Quite a lot.
I can imagine. In what way, and so on?
Where do you start? The name.
Yeah, exactly.
The name. It's been an interesting roller coaster since Brexit. I mean, you have to get on and just get on with it, don't you? But it was a bit of a shock. I mean, when it first happened, you had quite a few customers of ours saying, you're going to change your name from Euroleathers. It's like, we're still dealing a lot with Europe. It's now just a bit more time costly and a bit more paperwork to do. But no, we're certainly not going to change the name. But it just comes back down to time that you spend on paperwork, duties involved. Shoe care side have registration of certain medical insoles that they have to do, like the liability on that side. Transport costs, I mean, it's eye-watering that the amount of money that we spend on transport going back, well, not back and forth, because it's now very difficult to send goods back. But yeah, the cost of bringing stuff over, courier costs. We're lucky. We've always had a team here in the office that we can take on a bit more of that paperwork. Yeah. But if you're somebody on their own and having to do all that whilst go out, see customers, selling, it's quite a big burden to take all that on. So we're fortunate. We probably haven't compromised in that side, but there's been a lot of peddling below the surface of the water.
But can it sort of, in one way, have been positive for you guys that people sort of choose you instead of other routes because it's been easier to sort of maybe go directly or whatever? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, we've certainly seen a benefit since Brexit for people that want to come in and buy a small amount. And, that is, that's what we're there to do. So, we take on all that paperwork stuff. We try and give them all the necessary documentation. And if they just want to come in and buy a skin or buy a roll, then they can do. But it's certainly been a benefit of Brexit with that. As you try and take the benefits out of that situation.
Some positive outlook on things.
Exactly. Yeah. Shouldn't be too doom and gloom about it. Yeah. The country voted for it.
Exactly. I mean, you just got to roll with it. Can't lay down and die, so to speak.
No, you can't. You can't be hung up on those kind of things.
But would you say sort of leather costs for UK manufacturers and all? Can you say sort of a percentage that Brexit has affected in terms of pricing, or?
I don't know about the percentage, but I mean, I would, if you look back on prices that we were probably selling into comparison to now, obviously the labour costs and other things that have gone up, raw material has probably gone up in Europe as well. So I, to put a ballpark figure on, I'd probably say an extra 10% for sure. Probably between 10 and 15. But if you look back at where the prices were before, it's probably about 15%. But there's quite a few factors in that. There's certainly been a challenge.
All right, let's sort of go more in depth in how you work with the tanneries and all. Sort of, which are the main tanneries that you have?
So on calf front, we work closely with a merchant here for Zonta, who are in Italy. We do some work with Leveneto, also in Italy. Junior Docini, who are a big sole supplier.
Yeah, exactly.
Of ours. And then we do a bit of in Portugal on side leather for sort of a middle ground pull-up leathers, printed stuff from Boaventura in Portugal. Certainly on the main calf front, and then suede we work with Opera in Italy.
Yeah, right.
On splits and then calf reverse as well. So, and then we've got lots of plenty of
smaller ones, stuff like that. But those are the big
ones that probably people may know of mainly.
And how do the sort of collaboration work here between you and them?
So we spend a lot of time with them. Firstly, it's coming back to the point about trying to get them to understand what our customer base is, who it is. So they have to come over and meet the customers, see us, see how we operate. And then in terms of us buying leather, we have to give them a certain amount of bulk order to make shipping worthwhile is a big headache these days. And often I will spend a bit of time out there inspecting various orders and going through everything, make sure everything is as expected.
So do you go down to the tanneries before sort of deliveries?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm probably out there every month, whether that's somewhere in Europe. I spend a lot of time in northern Italy. Was there last week, and it's more so you can take customers with you, and quite a few like to do that. The ones that we sort of agent for, and they take ownership of their orders, and we'll try and buy a bulk lot, do an inspection, or ones that don't want to do that and can't, then they'll rely on us to do it, and we'll bring it in, and that's sort of where the responsibility comes on my head to make sure that the orders are not only on time but to to the expectations that they need. And yeah, it's can be a bit tricky. I mean, coming back to that Brexit thing with transport, it's the length of time to do things now, whereas before you could work on a 3-4 week lead time, say, to get some goods in. Now, the tanner, generally the higher class tanneries, higher calf suppliers tanneries are quite busy. Yeah. So lead times have been pushed out. Then you have to try and balance in getting it out there, do a trip, bringing it over. So 3 or 4 weeks has probably turned to 6 or 7 weeks. Yeah.
Almost double.
Yeah. So you're always looking at a couple of months down the line of what you need, which can be challenging, certainly in a period where things are a little bit slow, or people are being a bit more cautious. So it's time and effort.
What's the sort of main challenges for you guys to continue to get good leathers all the time?
I mean, the harsh reality of it is that you're only as good as your supply line. Yeah. So you have to put not pressure, but you have to get the tanneries to understand the quality that you need and the timings of it. They're trying to, don't want to sound harsh on some Italians, but their business over there is very different to our customers.
Yeah, I mean, everyone who's dealt with Italians know they have their pros, cons, the way they work with things. Yeah.
So yeah, it's fantastic when they come over actually, and you give them an overview of what their leathers are going into around here, and it's a real eye opener for them. Yeah. Like, wow. And then you bang your head against the wall, being like, "This is why I told you you needed to come over how many months ago." Yeah. But big challenge is that pool of supplies is probably getting smaller. Mm-hmm. The ones that are not owned by bigger brands.
Yeah, exactly.
The ones that are independent that we've traditionally always worked with are getting few and far between. Yeah. And the ones that we are working with are finding it difficult to find the right raw material. And it's also time dependent of the year of when they think good raw material might come through. So it's the constant communication between you, understanding when they might have good lot to come over, when they need the order, when you can go over. So it's a big chain of events, really. Yeah.
So how does that work because we know that a lot of the famous tanneries, they are bought up by luxury
brands,
goods groups like Hermes, LVMH, or Prada, and those ones. What sort of happens for wholesalers like you when that occurs?
It's a good question. We've not really been in a position where that's happened. Certainly in my experience, Andrew has been in that experience where they've been bought by a bigger brand, and it becomes a bit tricky because they might not want agents or representatives in the UK trying to push for certain. It's very case dependent, but obviously you would become a bit more of a number. You just know that you probably don't have access to the top stuff that they'll be making, because they'll be making it for their own brand. I don't want to sound too bitter on that, because I haven't been through it.
No, and I know that in many cases, sort of some of these tanneries might not be around if the big players hadn't stepped in.
Exactly.
So,
and that is very apparent. There's two guys that we've worked with over the past few years that have just closed the doors in Italy, because they have worked a lot with those Italian brands, and they're at a point where there's no work, and they don't want to be 2 years down the road and lost a huge amount of money. They're now at a point where they could probably step away, close it, and then reassess. Maybe as a smaller business to open up whenever, if the business comes back around. But it's, sad points like that. And that's where big brands are very good, come and save a tannery and save the supply line, really, because if an independent family-owned place shuts the doors and that's it, they never come back and they've had enough and they're left with a bit of a bitter taste, then that knowledge is gone.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like here in the manufacturers, if you lose a lot of that knowledge and hasn't been nurtured or been passed on to the next person, then we are de-skilling quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And I know you, of course, mainly work with the larger volume stuffs, but if you look at more like indeed, what type of really special stuff do you have on the shelves at the moment, would you say? Do you have anything?
So we're very classic, It's always been very classic. And yes, we have some contemporary type leathers, but if you look at it, you've seen in the warehouse, it's browns, tans, blacks, there are some colours down there, but it's new and exciting stuff is maybe not our customer base. No, but I'd probably say in the last couple of years for sure, everybody, since COVID really, it's all about comfort. So how do you make a Goodyear welted or a welted shoe even comfier that you want to be in the workplace? Well, softer soles, more flexible leather, slightly different construction perhaps. It's all about trying to win over people's perceptions and carrying on buying those, but wear them to work with a pair of jeans instead of a suit. So probably we've done some very nice supple waxed calf. We've had one recently where it was very artisanal type hand boarded grain. So literally rolled, cool. Which is quite cool. So that's probably as far as artisan type, new type leather.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, we've got a few things down there, but that's probably the most intriguing at the moment.
And things that you always have to bring up when you talk about leathers is always talk about how the leather quality is declining and so on. What's your view here?
I think there's two ways to look at it. I mean, it's clear that the farmers are growing cattle quicker. There's no hiding from that. And there's, in fact, last week when I was in Italy talking to the person responsible for raw material purchasing, and they said, we've just visited an abattoir in France and made it very clear that the cattle are bigger, being grown quicker, and we're always going to be that byproduct of that. So, yes, those things are going to have detrimental effects, growth, vein, whatever it might be. But we're now in a world, from my perspective, of new technology. The calf tanners, have a lot more things at hand that can mellow those things out and still produce a very fine-looking calf. Back in the day, I mean, we've still got some calf here that's early 90s. You still see the same issues in it. still got growth, still got vein, but it might be a little bit more visible because they didn't have the technologies to sort of cover it, but reduce it a little.
All right, yeah.
So, and also, it's chemicals. Chemicals and tanning agents change, don't they, over time? So it's always going to be hard to pinpoint if the raw material is changing or is it the tanning agent stuff going in it that's also prohibiting it. There were probably more chemicals that were.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I mean, one of the reasons that leathers were better in exclamation points before was because you could use more harsh chemicals as well. That's apart from the rawhide stuff. Ended up looking better shoes, but maybe you had a lot of sort of nastier things along the way that
red crosses.
Was it? Yeah, exactly. Was it worth it? So to speak.
Yeah. Do not swallow.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a few things like that. I think it's important that we don't sort of get too hung up on the quality of the leather that I think is declining. I think there's a multitude of factors, and there's by all means there's still plenty of hides out there that are good quality. Yeah. Just making sure that you can find them. Yeah.
And sort of maybe a bit obvious in some way since you're based where you are, but in general, sort of who are the customers that buy leather through you?
We're doing an array really now. So obviously coming back to the one-stop shop of the shoe trade here, we sell to shoemakers all over the world. Yeah. Australia, Qatar, Ecuador, America, Japan.
Yeah, you have a lot of that as well, yeah.
Yeah. Which is great. We're probably doing more and more every year of that. Yeah. We've never, no, not a lie, we've never been good at promoting Euroleathers. It's been a thing that I've tried to tried to spend a bit of time in the last 5 years of getting our social media presence up, which we've not really spent any money on. We need to spend more money on the website. People can't buy a skin online from us. They have to talk to us, which
you can browse what you have. So
exactly. And we will get to the point where we can do that, but it's not been a full priority of ours because often we want to talk to people about the leather and understand their needs. So that's why we've always tried to direct them to the office first. But coming back to sort of selling, you're selling a service, then you should be able to buy a skinner lining or something that's relatively middle of the road, and ship it all over. So, we'll get to that, but it's not currently quite set up.
But I also know that sort of your reputation is that you're maybe also because of that reason that you want to deal with you directly, so to speak, that people can get in touch with you, get actually what they are after, so to speak. Yeah. It's not that often that people get sent stuff that doesn't work for them. They get what they are after, so to speak, which from what I understand is not always the case when you, especially when you shop low volume stuff, so to speak.
I mean, we as you've seen down there, we've got a lot of leathers in the warehouse. Not everything is online. We've just got our sort of standard range of what's turning over fairly regularly. And somebody might want to come in and buy a single skin for a glasses case, a watch strap. It might be very intricate and bespoke for them, so they'd much rather come and talk to me, have a look at the things here and walk away. And yes, you have to spend a bit of time with them, but you'd hopefully in years to come they'll be a repeat customer for many years. So it's nice. It's nice dealing and chatting to people about how they set up. We've had so many instances where ever since COVID, people have looked at the bigger picture and said, actually, sod the finance world. I want to go be an artisan. How my grandfather did it, and so many people have come in here and said that, and it's great. It's great to hear. Something that we need to support and champion, because you never know where those people might end up.
Yeah, exactly. But then you also work with sort of the bigger players in Northampton, the factories, and all that.
Yeah. I mean, we're
how does that work, so to speak?
We deal with every single one in some capacity, really, whether it's upper leather or components or anything in between. So there are our bread. I'd say bread and butter, but it sounds a bit cliche. And that's what Euroleathers as a business has been so good at for so many years. Then I'm there knocking on the door every day, seeing the same people, asking them about what they need. Again, coming back to looking forward a few months in advance about what they are going to need. And there's so many European holidays that you have to factor in. There's constant work like that you're always having to think about to try and keep ahead of the game, really.
But how does it work for no matter the type of leather, but when you have a smaller order and they are specifying the quality of the order, how is that done when someone is completely remote and can't come and visit you, so to speak?
Well, I mean, we will always try, and if they're doing a very small order, give them the best that we can. When I do inspection trips over to a tanner, you generally always try and have in mind you've ordered to a certain quality, that you're not just ordering like a TR table run and knowing that you're going to have to try and utilize some of the lower grade.
Explain what you mean with that. Table run.
So TR, often a lot of tanners will call just an average drum load a TR run, so a tannery run.
Yeah.
So in that you'll get grades 1, 2s and 3s perhaps. But a lot of them have always done that because you're obviously going to have some more defects in some of the skins. And the grading is not so important, I feel, when I'm looking at a pack, because you know where you're placing a lot of the things anyway. If somebody's ordering a single skin, they're majority of the time always going to get first grade from us. Yeah. And if that's not the case, if we're down to a little bit low on stock, then we'll make them aware that we're running low and we've got this. And it might have a scar in it. It might have a bit of excessive growth. What are you using? What are you producing? If you're cutting a big panel, okay, well, we can try and give you a bit of an allowance on it, try and utilize it up. Or you might have to wait how many weeks, and it just comes back to the communication and let them know. There's not rare occurrences where we just send out a skin and haven't told people what they're going to expect, unless it's a first grade and there's no reason to talk to them about it.
Yeah, cool.
And
I mean, in every country that produce footwear or other leather products, there are leather wholesaling companies, which many might not be aware of at all, so to speak. How important are you for these industries, would you say?
Well, I'd like to think quite important.
Yeah.
Otherwise we wouldn't be here. But no, I think maybe in the past it wasn't quite so important to have the wholesaling business, because you could move goods pretty freely. Now I think it is quite important.
Yeah, getting more important.
Yeah, getting more. And we will often have tanners contact us saying, can you sell for us, or can you, can we, if we come over, can you take us around your customer base? No, you can't just let somebody come here, show them your customer base without understanding what the tannery does and things. So there's quite it's a bit of a drawn out process to be able to onboard, I think, a supplier. But yeah, I think the wholesale market has become very important. And all those small makers or people that just want to buy a roll and not have to spend, big out. I'm sure a lot of them could spend that, but it's just the outlay, and the cost of labour here has gone up. They've got their own business to run, so they rely on us to always hold stock and have something at hand that they can buy quickly. So yeah, I think it is important. Yeah, I think in the UK there's probably 10 or 15, but in our area, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, because exactly, it's like you're in the shoe section mainly.
Yeah,
and then you have
exactly. Yeah, you have your own specialists. So there's a few upholstery guys. There's a couple of saddle specialist guys over in Walsall and Birmingham way. There's obviously a few around here with the Northamptonshire shoe trade. There's a few up the north end of the country. But yeah, I'd probably say about 10 or 15. But everybody has their own unique specialist, and whether that's to do with area, whether that's to do with the kind of fashion or industry that they're in. So I don't really see it as competition. There's enough business out there for everyone. Yeah. You can try and help one another. The industry, yes, it's getting smaller, but there's still plenty of business for everybody to succeed and survive.
Due to it not being super big, it's more important that the ones that are around are around, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah. Keep it going. I mean, competition is healthy, really. You need competition to keep things fresh.
Yeah. So how has the leather wholesaling industry changed sort of the past decades or so, would you say?
Well, certainly decades, probably not the best person to ask. I mean, not always being in it, but I mean, it's if you'd ask probably my uncle or dad, they would say the orders are smaller. Would probably be their simple answer on it. I think certainly over the last 5 years has been, 5 to 7 years has been a hell of a lot of change. Ever since Brexit and COVID, those things have certainly shifted things. But over the last decade, I mean, there's leather is always going to be there. Touch wood. If you look back on centuries, it's the most robust raw material, really. And
and I mean, most of the alternatives that at least up until today, they are synthetics, and it's basically all comes from crude oil in the long run, and it's a lot of issues with that. So
we have looked at alternatives to, for maybe of a brand point of view, rather than manufacturers here, where they have sort of toyed with it, but none has really stuck. Comes back down to what can you get through the factories and that manufacturing process, and is it robust and long lasting?
But in general, you see that orders nowadays are smaller than before, so to speak.
Yes, definitely. I mean, there's you're in a little bit of a quieter moment worldwide at the moment in terms of manufacturing. People have been stocked up, costs have had an impact. So people are being a bit more cautious, and subsequently orders have become smaller. They might be a little bit more often, but people don't really want to take the risk of sitting on a few thousand feet of stock that might be, anywhere between 10, 20, 30 grand's worth of stock just sitting there with the hope that their customer is going to order soon.
So that's part of it. Maybe that is sort of, exactly. Factories and those don't want to sit on stock in the same way as they used to, so they might order more often, but smaller. Quantities,
They don't take the risk. I'm not quite sure if fashion is always leading that as well. Are things moving quicker, or certainly with your standard Oxfords or your black calf and things that has certainly dropped off a bit because people didn't spend as much time in offices, and but equally our suede business went up a lot, more casual look. So it's sort of come back a little bit, but certainly I think the comfort side of things and the flexibility of shoes has maybe shifted a little bit of that.
One thing that you started to see is that some tanneries have their own web shop to sell small quantities, even single heights. What do you think about this?
One of our suppliers does it, does it quite well. Not like the scale of some of the big boys out there, but I think everybody's got their own business to worry about, their own canoe to paddle. We can't be too hung up about decisions. We've got to concentrate on what we do. If they are selling as a web shop, then you'd hope that they'd give you the head start on offering that into your country, if you're being an agent and wholesaling that. Competitors, the tanneries that I'm not working with, they've got to do what they've got to do. And if it helps the leather industry sustain and get bigger, then all for it.
And where do you see this industry go in the future? The $1 million question.
Well, I'm a firm believer that it will be here in many years to come. In what capacity? I don't know. We're dealing with a raw material that I think is long lasting. There's certainly concerns about the trade in, like I said, losing skill. But there's encouraging signs of skill also being put back in. You've got the Leather Makers Shoe Conference, stuff like you've got Hartmut and Dustin with their upper making book in Germany. We sponsored that. That's all stuff that you can give back to the industry. And we haven't got the skill of shoemaking or saddle making, whatever it might be, but we can try and give a bit of sponsorship, some help into people that can give back like that. And so I think the industry will be there to stay. The leather technology place in at Northamptonshire University closing, the museum over in Walsall, the council's trying to shut down. These are things that are not good for the leather world in general. But you can't let that dampen spirits. I mean, I still see a lot of positives. It's a very niche business that we're in, but we've got to champion it and talk about it more and more. This is a great example of trying to let people know about the kind of work that we do and difficulties, but also the honest truths about how we can improve.
Exactly. And I mean, everyone has experienced old products of excellent leather and knows how great it can be, so to speak. And so people are aware of the beauty of the material, so to speak.
And
you got to remind them about that, maybe. And
we have to try and remain positive about the industry and where we're going. And we've got Linear Pearl next week out in Milan. I'm pretty hopeful that's going to be a lot more footfall and people are going to be back visiting. We've already seen orders have bounced back a little bit in the last few weeks. It's lovely. It's a lovely industry to be in.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Rob James of Euroleathers, thank you so much for being part of the podcast.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Visit shoegazing.com for much more on quality shoes. And if you want to support shoegazing and make it easier for me to continue to produce high-level content, there is a Patreon page where you can contribute with anything from $3 a month. Both big and small contributions are much appreciated. See shoegazing.com for more info on this. The Shoegazing podcast will be back with a new episode in a short while, so hear you again soon.